You're listening to the House Guy and Home Girl podcast, a podcast about real estate and real life. As realtors, home builders, and real estate investors, John and Kim keep it real. Former teachers turned real estate professionals, they have a heart for helping others. Join them each week as they discuss all things home. And now, here's your hosts, John and Kim.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, John the House Guy, here with my lovely co-host,
Kim the Home Girl.
And this week's show is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about the real estate journey. What happens after you get a contract and you say, I'm buying this house. I've already picked it. I've done everything I need to do. I'm going to buy this house. From the contract to the closing table, what are the steps involved in there? Listen, if you like this content, make sure that you like this page, subscribe, comment down below, give us some information, let us know that this is working, or if it's not, tell us so we can fix it and get you guys something that you want to see. But for the most part, if you would, it really helps us out if you would subscribe to the channel. And then also, if you're listening on a podcast app, make sure that you write us a review, because all those things really help guide people to the show. So, all that being said, what's been going on with you this week, Kim?
This week, it's Thursday. We usually always record on Fridays. Let me see here.
Still, it feels like it's been a whole week, even if it hasn't.
No, I don't even know, man. I really don't. Like
all the different days of school.
Yeah, I'm just like, what is like we're making this vegetable soup, and like it's just all this stuff that's in, like it's Monday but we're doing this on Monday, and it's Tuesday but we normally do this but now we're doing this. Right. And so like I wake up, my alarm goes off, and I'm like, what day is it? What are we doing? And I have to then I'll fall back asleep, but it's just been one of those weeks.
Are we signing yearbooks? Are we dressing up in a poodle skirt? Are we doing the hair crazy? Are we wearing silly socks?
It's that crazy.
Having this? Are we doing that? School-wise, they've shut it down, right?
Yeah, it's done. And then, of course, Emmett never... He'll tell us last minute, I need this. I got to have it right now. Like, I'm fixing to walk out the door, and you've got to sign this, and then you've got to write me a check. And it's just like, so a little more vegetable soup. That it's just,
and I hate vegetable soup. Just that. Yeah. I don't eat vegetable soup. It's terrible. So, but we've started framing on the house back there, so that's going good. I mean, we've at least got some progress moving there.
Yeah, it is. It's neat to see it all come together and then walk it out. And
discover some things that are like, wait a minute, the blueprint.
Right, when you see it, yeah. And you showed me that really cool thing. I would like to do that with clients eventually, like maybe in a gym. School gym.
The big projector or whatever.
The big projector.
Yeah, that's some builder I saw on Instagram, and they have
They took a blueprint and then they projected it on the floor, and it was to size, so you could actually walk into the rooms and things like that. And so that's a really good exercise exam, or because sometimes people say, well, I didn't know this bedroom was going to be this small, or I didn't know this dining room is so big, or vice versa, or I didn't know this closet was going to hit here. And so that's a really good, if you had, and it's really just a projector and just projecting.
And a giant gym.
And a giant space. Exactly. Like we couldn't do it out here, but
so we'd have to buy a gym.
But yeah, just getting that framed up, getting the kids done with school, taking the dog to the vet. My dad is doing much better.
Yeah, that's been a praise for sure.
He's definitely. He should be coming home next week, which will be over a month between hospital, ICU, rehab, and all that. So.
Yeah, but he's going to be getting to come home, which was like, man, there was a time where it was touch and go. Didn't really know.
Yep. So that is a huge praise.
So let's just talk about, we're getting into the show now, from contract to closing, right? So there's this whole phase of real estate that...
Let's go back. When you say that, the whole contract to closing. Okay, so you see a house, and you have... Well, okay, let me go back. You have a realtor that, you like to use, and it may be one of us. Anyway, so you call us up, and you may know that you're in search of a house. And so we're searching and looking, and we send you to a house, and you drive up, and it's the house you want, right? And there's just a sign, and then we, we'll set up an appointment. Usually we like for people to drive by because, sometimes there's something on the outside that, immediately, I do not want that house.
Oh, yeah, the neighbors got their car up on blocks, or,
exactly,
they're cooking meth outside.
Okay,
or
not all that, but,
whatever.
That's a little extreme. But yeah, I mean, some of that.
Well, and
pictures don't smell and things like that.
Pictures don't smell. That's what we always say, right?
Yeah.
So, but we're past all that. We
got the house. We
know what we're doing.
Right. And so we drive up. We've already looked at it. We told our realtor, this is I want this house. Well, then you get in the car. What's next? What do you do next?
Yeah, we write the offer, we get the contract, it's accepted, and we're all moving forward. That's where we start.
That's where we're
today.
here.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
The first thing that's going to happen is when you're writing that contract, you need to make sure, right, that you dot every I, cross every T, and anything that you want to ask for as a buyer, you include it in the contract. Sometimes appliances aren't included, sometimes they are. If it's attached to the house, we've already talked about that, it stays. Make sure that,
that's where a good realtor comes in, because first of all, you're not writing the contract. Your realtor would write a contract.
Yeah.
And then also,
but they're going to write what you tell them to write.
They're going to write what you tell them to write. Yeah, exactly. And that goes for buyers and sellers, because if you wanted something to convey with a house or not to convey, like my blueberry bushes back there do not convey with a house, you need to make sure to tell your real estate agent that, so that it can be spelled out. Basically, is what you're saying. Everything that you want to be spelled out in that contract.
In the contract. Mm-hmm. And then when that contract is going to have different elements in the contract, you want to make sure you include the purchase price. So obviously, you got to agree on that. You want to make sure that you include the day that you want to close, what the timeline is for your financing, if you are financing or buying in cash. You want to include all your inspection contingencies, right? If you're going to have a home inspection, are you going to have a termite inspection? Are you going to have a radon inspection? Mm-hmm. Are you going to have a septic or sewer inspection? All that needs to be in writing so everybody knows going forward what's happening, right?
Right.
From there, you're going to be what we call under contract, and the house goes from on the market to pending.
Pending, right.
So
if they accept what you've, the sellers they've accepted your offer that you've given them, and there could be some back and forth there. There could be some price changing and some other negotiating. Everything people say everything is negotiable, including some people I've had clients to, not mine, but others have asked for the TVs to stay on the wall. Which is a little bit extreme. Like, come on, y'all. You can. This is
depends on what you're buying.
2023.
Right? If it's somebody's house
right,
versus if you're buying an Airbnb, we want the furniture to stay.
Yeah,
whatever,
furniture.
Different
and
things.
so everything is negotiable in that. So it needs to be spelled out. And once everybody agrees, you signed it, and then it'll go to. And usually we do that via email. Through Dotloop,
or eSign or DocuSign or any of that stuff,
because it used to be somebody would come to your house and you would sign this, and then the real estate agent would get in the car.
Yeah, that's where a lot of real estate agents got a bad name, signing documents on the hoods of cars and
we have
stick this in front of you and you just sign it, trust me, and then something didn't go right. So you want to make sure you review.
We've been at the kitchen table signing, and we've been on the hood of a car signing, and. But thankfully, we've.
But we had somebody that we trusted that was helping us, right?
Correct.
You want to make sure that anything you sign, you're going to be reviewing that. Make sure that you've got that, that you do your due diligence on the house and then also on the contract.
We've got a signed contract, and
now it's time for the due diligence phase, right? So, talk a little bit about the importance of inspections.
Well, first of all, in the contract, and you're going to talk to, and your real estate agent will help you with this as well. You have options of when to complete the home inspection by. And so it's usually within 10 days.
It's all in, you just need to specify.
Yeah.
It could be 3 days. It could be 7, could be 10, 14,
right.
Whatever.
So you have X amount of days that you want to do a home inspection. And then after you get the home inspection, the report, usually, and this all has to be spelled out in the contract, you've got X amount of days to get back with the seller of the property to say, to negotiate, hey, we found a leaky, whatever the findings were. If you want to have the seller fix any of those findings in there, that's the time to do it. Now, some people, I don't know, things have just changed so much. In the past, when all the housing market, basically houses were flying off the shelf, people were waiving the inspection. I don't recommend waiving an home inspection.
I didn't recommend anybody do that either.
And like some homes that are auctioned off and things like that.
And if you're buying an investment, you're most of the time buying it as is, right?
Right.
And that helps you to get that at a good price.
Right.
So.
And and some houses will state as is, and if that's the case, it's an as is property and the sellers are not going to fix anything usually.
But what you're going to do in that process is you're going to hire somebody to come in as an inspector to go through the house and every component of the house, the roof,
I recommend getting a licensed home inspector.
Right, yeah.
And we have a,
what is that called? National Association of NASHI, something like that. But there's an organization that
they're certified,
credentials those people. Yeah,
right,
and it's good to make sure you do that.
Yeah.
And then I always call this the second negotiation, right? So we negotiated the price and when you're going to close, and everybody agreed on that. And now 10, 14 days later, we've had this inspection. This is the second negotiation. So will you fix this? Will you do that? Mm-hmm. Or we want this much of an allowance and we'll fix it ourselves. We're going to negotiate this next part. And deals fall apart here all the time because, no, I'm a seller and I gave you a great price. I'm not doing that. Or, no, I'm paying a great price as a buyer and I'm not going to accept this problem that's here. You either fix it or we walk, the second negotiation. So you have to.
And there's several different things that you can do to negotiate. Sometimes the price is brought down. Sometimes an allowance is given to fix those things on the buyer's watch after closing. Just several different things. Sometimes, the seller will hire somebody to fix it. Yeah. And that's when, if they do say that they're going to fix it, then you go back through before closing, and do a walkthrough and make sure those things are fixed. So, if you're selling your house or if you're buying a home, you have to be flexible. You can't, and we've had people that, have went the other way with that. Like, you have to be flexible. It's a, if you have to think about what you would want in that same situation. If there's a leak and some things are just a safety issue, things that, a lot of electrical things, electrical wiring, it's unsafe.
Yeah, and a good agent is going to go through that with you before your house even goes on the market as a seller, right?
Right.
And a good agent as a buyer's agent is going to point those things out to you if they see them during when you're showing the house, right? Not hey,
and if
you see that there's a leak right there, so water,
right, and you need to disclose that with your real estate agent. Anything that's wrong with the house, you need to disclose that with them so that they can tell the potential buyers.
Sure, yeah, especially anything structural.
It's in the contract that you should disclose things like that. So.
After that, they go through what I call the second negotiation. Now we're on to the financing.
Could also make or break a contract.
The appraisal, right? Yep. Like the value. The bank basically hires an appraiser to look at it and go, yes, the price is being paid.
Financing.
The price is being paid. Well, the finances should have already been approved at this point, right? The buyers before they go look. But at this point, the appraisal is happening, and they're telling you they're hired by the bank, right? But the buyer is going to be the one to pay for it. And to say, hey, is this property worth the amount of money we're fixing to loan out to this buyer? They've already verified that the buyer is a good credit risk. Now, is this property a good match for this credit risk and for us, so that if we had to take it back, is it worth what we are putting into it?
Right. And unless you're paying cash for a particular property, any bank loans and things like that, banks are going to require you to get an appraisal because they want that money to be backed by, a certain amount. They want to know that money is backed, and if something,
there's a possibility of them getting it back. Right?
Exactly. Right. If you defaulted, they want to be able to sell that house, and they're not going to loan you $500,000 on a house that's only worth $3. So,
and that's what a lot of people run into when flipping houses. When you want to get into flipping, the bank is not going to loan you more money than the house is worth, right? Mm-hmm. So if you see a house and you're like, oh, that house would be worth $185,000 fixed up, and I can buy it for $120,000. Well, if it's only worth $120,000, that's all they're going to get. So you're going to have the other money to fix it up. Mm-hmm. That appraisal is going to, if you don't have some cash on hand, flipping houses is not not an easy way to get started. You're going to have to find the money to do the fix-up because they're not going to give you the money.
Or even building, if building, you still got to have money to finish
To
at
get
the
started
end. You're
or
only
to get
getting,
finished, right? You got to buy a lot or you got to buy landscape.
You're right. You're
Yeah.
only getting 80% of that, of the appraised value anyways, if you did did build a home yourself. But yeah, the appraisal, so a licensed certified appraiser will go out there, and if it's a bank that you're getting the money from, they'll go out there and send their appraiser, and that's, they'll come back and they'll give you a report, and it either appraises or it doesn't. And that's where, and if it doesn't, you got to go back and do some negotiations and things like that. So
if it doesn't appraise, right, you got basically two options. The buyer can bring cash to make up the difference, or the seller can back off, and a mixture of those.
Because the bank isn't going to loan you
more than it's worth.
So if it is worth, if the bank says, okay, based on these documents that the appraiser gave me, and an appraiser too, it's not just some bogus number that they pull out of a hat. They look at all these factors: bedroom and location,
comps.
and comps is huge. What other homes in that area that were similar to that house sold for.
They make adjustments, right? So if it's a smaller or larger house,
there's so many formulas in that. Those people are super smart, and they come up with a number, and if it doesn't appraise, if a home doesn't appraise, and say it got listed for $250 and it only appraised for $200, well, the bank's only going to give you $200. So that's what he was just saying. You either have to bring the extra $50,000 in cash or whatever the difference is, or
seller's got to come down.
Yeah.
And if the two can't get together,
and those things have happened. Those things happen more so than not. Well, not really. They have happened in the past, even to us. But that's where the latter of the two. Some people are like, I want that my house is worth X amount of dollars, and it's really not.
Yeah, if it's not, then you hang on to it. It might be one day, but it's
not
today.
Not today.
Based on everything that this appraisal is telling us, and the houses around you that have sold, it's worth that.
So
you can sell it now for that, or you can hang on to it. Because as a buyer's agent, I don't ever advise my people to pay over appraisal. Right?
No,
I don't. I say, hey, this is what it's worth. Don't pay more than it's worth. Now, people get emotional, right? Especially during the pandemic and after that, when people were just paying hand over fist, all kinds of crazy amount. I'll pay it. I'll just pay it. I'll pay it. Okay. Now they're still not back to, their house is still not worth what they paid for it.
Right. They're having to do some tough loving on that
house.
Tough loving on the house. Tough loving every month when they sign that check for the mortgage. Yeah. It's not a fun situation to be in. So, okay. So you've got your, you've got your contract. You've done your due diligence, and you've done the home inspection, got that back. You've negotiated with the sellers of the property. Y'all have come up with whatever they're going to fix. Now we've made it through appraisal stage. The appraisal came back. Woo! It came back. It came back good. Came back good.
Yeah, good on value, no conditions. All right, that's what we want to hear. Good on value, no conditions.
And then the next step is
title and insurance, title search. So during this period that we're going through all this, right? In the background over here, we've sent the contract to an escrow company, a title company, and they're looking at the chain of ownership of the property to produce a clean and equitable title that makes it where you can transfer that property, that there's no liens on the property, that there's no judgments against you as a seller, that there's no issue with a contract or anything like that.
Let's go and talk about you as a, they're going to investigate everything. All your financial, they're like a financial forensic scientist.
Well, that's on, you're talking about a buyer. That's on the underwriting side of the loan. This is the title of the house, the property.
Oh, the title of the,
Yeah, the property. So they're looking at, but the sellers of the property, right, whether or not they have any kind of issue, right? Like, like we know, because the John Wright alter ego guy had a lien or whatever, right, had a judgment against him. And so when I go to close, early on we started doing this, it was always like, well, do you have a judgment? No, I don't have a judgment. They found that out when we were selling a property, right? Like, I don't have it, so I'd sign an affidavit saying, no, it's not me. Right. It's not my problem.
And I had that issue with...
That came up on one of yours, too.
Yeah.
I can't remember, but we've both had to sign affidavits.
I think that was when we lived in Killen, and they had the same street. They lived on the same street that we lived on. But
well,
it was like,
we both have had experience with people having our name, though.
And you and in that instance, you have to have an affidavit that you sign saying that this is not me, and that will hold up in court. And then those statements and that affidavit costs money every single time. You have to go and find it.
Didn't you get your car booted in college because of the other Kim Hester?
You were the only boot in college.
Oh, did you get a ticket or something? Or
yeah, no,
I
got
had tickets and they wouldn't let you have your schedule because.
So if you want to go down
tickets.
that little, so my classes got canceled.
Enrollment denied.
It was my senior semester of school before I student taught, and I had to have this one particular class to do my student teaching the next semester or whatever. Anyways, my classes got canceled because my scholarship got canceled, and because I was overdue on all these tickets, and I made bad grades at the same time. So one transferred to the other, they started investigating, oh, she's got all these tickets that she's not paid. Oh, her, she's made all these bad grades, so let's cancel her scholarship. I was in tears in the basement of Bibb Graves, oh, God, y'all were giving me this class. I'm not going to spend another day. But I was crying, and it was bad. But there was another Kim Hester.
Yeah, it wasn't
UNA.
you.
It wasn't me.
It was your alter ego.
Yeah,
yeah.
But she was out there making bad grades and racking up tickets. So.
And then there was another John Wright, in the band with us.
Really?
The little skinny clarinet player.
Oh, I forgot about that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but is that the guy? Did you? Oh, but we're just saying people that could have been these affidavits.
Yeah.
out there.
That's what I'm saying. We've had both issues with us having,
right.
I guess,
and then later
on,
we lived on Bellevue Drive, but Bellevue Road or somewhere there was another Kim Hester, and I can't remember, but maybe she filed bankruptcy or something. Any of that kind of thing, they'll do an investigation, and then they have to clear your financial history and to make sure that everything's legit.
So as a seller, when you sell your house as a piece of property, if anybody is entitled to some money from you and they've gone through the proper process to file those documents in court or at the courthouse, you're going to have to pay and make them whole before you get your money for selling your house. That's what the title search is going to show us, right? And it's also going to show us if there's any kind of problems with the house as far as chain of title, if maybe somebody passed away and the next person started living in the house and they didn't have the ownership.
It's always important to be transparent or upfront. It's always important to be upfront with your realtors, with potential buyers that are buying your home. You never want to conceal anything, and you never want to. It's extremely important to be transparent with your spouse. Okay, this is a bad time to find out that you've got a $10,000.
That you had a car you walked away from, or something.
Because they will find it. You're not running away from tax collectors.
Yeah, you're gonna get busted.
Yeah, so make sure to just. First of all, pay your bills. You're not going to win. You're not going to run away from a debt collector.
If you're going to be a homeowner, you're going to have to be up and up on your credit and all that. But the title search process, again, shows not only the sellers, but also the property. Right. So the next thing, finally, we're ready to close. The last thing I always have done, what that title insurance is going to be.
Okay.
So when you get insurance on a title, that basically says they're going to investigate, the escrow company is going to investigate all that and then say, yes, everything looks clear. We will issue you a title insurance policy. That way, if anything does come up or come back, we feel like we've done our diligence and all that kind of stuff to make sure it's an equitable title that you can sell, you can transfer the deed.
And it's usually the sellers that pay for that title insurance.
The title insurance most of the time, yes. So now we're ready to actually close. We're at the attorney's office. The day has come. We've walked through the property the last time. We're ready to...
You walk through the property and everything that was in the contract initially and everything that you agreed upon in the home inspection is complete and buttoned up and fixed to your likings. What if it's not?
If it's not, then you need to slow this process down. You need to not
You're not
close,
closing.
right?
You're not closing that
We need
day.
to really figure this out.
And here's the deal, y'all. Like, just there's so many key players in buying a home. There's so many people out there. There's a real estate agent on both sides. If it's not, sometimes the real estate agent represents the buyer and the seller. There are, you've got home inspectors, you've got mortgage lenders,
finance people,
brokers. You've got lawyers that are closing this. And so to get to the closing process, you need to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. And a good real estate agent will keep you in line and keep a good rapport open between another real estate agent if they don't represent them, to kind of keep you informed of, hey, it appraised. Hey, we look good for closing. Hey, they're going to fix X, Y, and Z, so don't worry about that. Or, kind of. So usually a projected closing date, 90 something. I don't want to put a.
Now it's going pretty smooth. Used to be it was not. You get delayed.
But I mean, you're going to close usually if you get to that point.
What you want to hear, those 3 magic words that everybody longs to hear: clear to close.
Yep.
When you hear clear to close, we're ready to sign papers. Yep. So we're at the attorney's office. We bring our ID. If you're buying,
wait, go back. What did you get before you get to the attorney's office? Usually you get a closing disclosure emailed to you to look over.
You may get that ahead of time. You may not.
Usually
your lender or your closing attorney should handle that for you. Get that to you. But if you don't have it, you may be looking at it.
But that's important to look over prior to your closing table, because then you can see if there's anything that you and the depending on who you are in that chain of command, if you're the buyer or you're the seller, make sure that everything that you agreed upon to do is in the right column. You don't get the other people's column anymore. You used to get both sides. Well,
some people give it to you, some people don't. I mean, it's just different closing offices have different
But make sure to always look, if you get it prior to the closing table, make sure to look over it. And as a good real estate agent, we usually talk through each column, and in each one of those things, you'll get a prorated. Your taxes will be prorated usually. A lot of times if there's an HOA fee, it's
a pretty confusing document. Basically, when you get that, you need somebody to guide you through it and say, look at these lines. Mm-hmm. Here's what you're paying. Here's what you're paying. Here's what you're paying. Here's what you're getting. Here's what you're getting. Here's what you're getting. Mm-hmm. Are you good with that? Yes. Are you good with that? Yes. Mm-hmm. Get your ID out. Make a copy of it. Sign on these lines right here. If you're the buyer, you're going to have a stack this thick of mortgage, especially if you're getting a mortgage, you're going to have a stack this thick of paperwork. Sellers usually have a smaller stack because there's not as much to it. You're selling and signing the deed. Your real
estate agent will usually be there at closing with you to explain documentation that you're signing. There will also be a lawyer, a facilitator there that will also make sure to ask questions. A lot of people say, I just signed my life away. Not really. That's kind of the devil there, like, ha, ha, ha. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of signatures, but everything, there's a rhyme and reason to all of it. And if you need any of the documents explained, feel free to pause and stop and let people explain. That's why they're there for. That's why they make the big bucks, the lawyers. And like I said, real estate agents, we see most of those documents are not new. Everything.
Oh yeah, you do several of these and you see it over and over.
Right, it's just over and over. I will say this though. Let me just go back. I don't think this. It should be common knowledge, but you think that, and then it's like, how could that happen? But if you do get a contract on a house and you've applied for a loan and you're in the deep of it, you've paid for a home inspection, an appraisal has already been done on the home that you want to purchase. Make sure that you're keeping your finances like. You're not doing anything you're not buying a new car. You're not
moving large sums of money around.
Go
finance a couch or some furniture.
Don't buy new furniture.
Just be still.
It's a snapshot. When you go to a mortgage broker and you say, I want a home loan, and that mortgage broker, he'll look into your finances, get your W-2s and all those things, look at your bank statements, and he will create a snapshot, a financial snapshot of your finances. keep it that way through this entire process.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is get to the closing table and you can't close.
And you can't close because let me tell you something. They have started, lenders sometimes will require a credit check the day of closing.
Mm-hmm. Not all, not
Not
many.
all, but regardless, it's either the day of closing or it's right there towards the end. And so you don't want to have done anything, like not paid your car payment that month.
Yeah, you're going to not buy a house because you got 20% off at Target or whatever because you opened a credit card.
Because you opened a credit card and
don't
it
do
dropped
that.
your, yeah.
Just be still and then you'll get to close.
Right. And again, that's common knowledge for most, but just make sure that you're not doing that, y'all. Just make sure. So
the final thing we're going to talk about here, we get to the closing table, we're there, right? If you're buying the house, your lender is going to say you need to bring this much in certified funds to the closing. If you're a seller, you're going to know how much money you're getting, and you're either going to leave there with a check or you're going to leave there with some keys. You either bought a house or you sold a house. If everything went smooth, now everybody's happy, everybody shakes hands, you coordinate a few things like, hey, here's when the garbage runs, here's where you need to go to get your utilities turned off, this is when we are going to disconnect the utilities.
Hey, and do not disconnect those utilities too early. Let me throw that in there, put that at the bottom. Don't warning,
not same day. We coordinate that. We try to coordinate that.
Anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, so
we've been bid a couple times.
Had a problem with that once. And then from that point, you own a home, right? So you need to make sure that you've got your insurance in place, your homeowner's insurance.
If you get a bank loan, they require you to have insurance.
To have it in place, yeah.
Yeah. So if you've got a whole lot of money that you want to throw around and buy a home for cash, just make sure you've got a good real estate agent that will go above and beyond and do all those checks and balances on your money that a bank would, because you could literally go up and say, here's $300,000. I want your house, and then not require that. That's your cash money. So there's nothing, you didn't get an appraisal done. You may not want a home. You don't have to do those things because those are your money, but a bank will require you to do those things. So, and a good real estate agent will kind of be your safeguard on a cash deal as well. So,
and it's over. Then the hard part starts. You're moving, right? The worst part, right? It's like you find out who your friends are or who they're not when it's time to move, right? So, the moving process. If you just sold your home, you take your money, put it in the bank, and you either move into your new home or wherever you've gone, and everything has been a success. Now we got a new homeowner and a new seller, and
that process is not, like you said, is not as long as it used to be because
just not as much inventory being moved.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So 30 days, typically 30 days.
It is typically
process.
30 days, but when you and I first bought our home, let's see, we bought our first home in 2005. Yep, almost 20 years ago. And I think back then, I'd have to look at a calendar, but I want to say that whole process went down in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was quick back then. That was what led us to the 2008 housing crash. Right. Those kind of fog up a mirror, here's your keys.
Yeah. Unless you have cash, you're not closing in 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, it's even hard to do that with title work and stuff like that.
But you can close 30, 45.
Depending on the
60,
loan product.
Yeah, depending on the loan you get, but we're here to help, and every step of the way. We're real estate agents are your voice in buying or selling.
Yeah, because that process can get confusing, and our heart really is to help people through the process that we've been through multiple times with our own purchases, with our own sales, and also with clients that we've helped. So, this process it can be really smooth if you have somebody that can help you through there and know what they're doing. And if you want that to be us, we'd be glad to help you any way we could. If you have anything that you think we left out of this list or anything that you think, hey, man, what about this? Or if you've got a question about this process, drop it down below or send us an email at johnthehouseguy@gmail.com.
Yeah, we love questions.
Yeah, we would love to hear from you and just connect with you and help you answer your questions. That being said, thanks so much for tuning into this week's show. We really appreciate you giving us a little bit of your time each week. If we can help you in any way, reach out however you can and get in contact with me or Kim, and we'll be glad to help. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for listening to the House Guy and Home Girl podcast, your #1 source for all things home. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out our YouTube page for video content from the show.